Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show. I'm your host, Dr. James JC Cooley, and wow, I tell you, just having so much fun today. I ran across a couple of folks that I haven't seen in a couple of years, and I'm talking about just catching up, and I tell you, and that's just life. Life is wonderful, and anytime we get a chance to live life, we need to wake up and thank God every day for giving us the opportunity to be here and also be able to, you know, pass down the generations all the things that we have learned and that we are going to continue to learn and also teach them. And sometimes it's making sure that the new generation, I'm talking about your kids, your grandkids, and etc., is able to stay healthy, especially during school time. Right now, I think most of the schools around the country are opening back up, and when they do, a lot of times you've got a lot of kids carrying germs, and they infect others and others and others, and we have to make sure that we teach the right things, that we are taking care of them, to make sure that we are taking care of our schools, our communities, families to keep the infections down. So today, I got a returning guest. I mean, this is an incredible guy, Troy Duell, and from Alabama. And had him on the show, I guess, about 2, 3 months ago. Just had such a great time. Talking about a lot of different things. This young man right here is so talented and so knowledgeable, so he's going to educate us and teach us and share some things on how we can, going back to school, kind of like keep the germs down and some tips for preventing all type of common colds and other things that we're going to get. So I tell you, without any further ado, I'm going to bring Troy on, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about himself. So, how you doing, Troy? How you doing, my friend?
Great, Dr. Cooley. Super excited to be here again. Great intro because you're right. Back to school usually means back to germs for just about everybody, and they always bring it home.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's and especially right now with all of the things that we all have went through over the last 3 years. Yeah, all the COVID and other bacterias and kids. The kids are kids. They don't know any better.
They don't know any better, and the truth is they're going to drink after each other. They're going to eat after each other. They're going to touch everything known to man, and then they're going to touch their eyes. They're going to touch their mouth, and they're going to bring a little present home from time to time.
Absolutely. So, hey, Troy, so for the viewers that did not catch you last time you was on the show, can you tell them a little bit about you, where you from, and what excites you?
Yeah, super excited to get on here and talk again because I think one of the things that excites me most is just people taking ownership of their health. So we've got a small company called Centurion Labs, and one of the things we do is we look for products and ways that people can continue to get better and try to bring out products that do that. So our goal is to help educate individuals so that they can make better decisions and make better choices so their health is that much better. And I think if we can do that, and the more ownership we have, then the more control we have over everything that we're doing. I think we've all been exposed to what can happen over the past 3 years with people who maybe weren't necessarily healthy. We weren't all prepared for something to happen like the pandemic that came in 3 years ago. But now, hopefully, we've seen things, we've been exposed to it, and it's created a greater fire in me to say, hey, let's figure out ways to keep these comorbidities down. How can we reduce obesity? How can we reduce high blood pressure and find natural ways and just ways that, again, all of us can take ownership of our health?
So, Troy, I know that you often to all type of health care products. Were you always intrigued? Because I think you started several different careers, including coaching, and if I remember correctly, a lot of different things. So, what made you turned to this and said, this is my calling and this is what I'm going to do?
That's a great question. I think a lot of that is probably my upbringing. I was always involved in sports, always trying to figure out ways that I could get better and maybe just have a little extra help than maybe some of the others that you're competing against or that you're going up against. So always looking for ways to just get better health. And, my parents were big in trying to help me compete and got me involved with individuals who would help train me. And they'd give me better ideas on exercises, on diet and health, and then had a passion really for health itself and had thought about going to physical therapy school or become a physician, but ended up doing sports medicine because it kind of combined both of those things with sports and health and education. So we were able to do that, or I was able to do that for several years and just continued that love and research. And that's kind of where it all was inspired from.
Wow. The topic of today's show, back to school, back to germ tips, and etc. Why did you choose this particular topic to educate our youth, our viewers, and our listeners today?
Well, I think it's one of those things that, again, the past 3 years, we've become so much more open to coming up with ideas that we don't bring this stuff home. We are now recognizing that, hey, there are places and times where germs can certainly multiply a lot faster, and our kids can bring germs home. But the other reason I like to talk about it is because I don't want to instill fear in anybody, because there are ways that we can really prepare ourselves, prepare our kids, and begin educating our kids and ourselves to overcome some of these things. And if we do get sick, then there are ways that we can begin to step in and have some healthy responses to what's going on out there.
What are some of the misconceptions that folks have? I mean, especially returning back to school with their kids and not knowing that, just like you said, kids gonna drink after each other. They're gonna reach over. I mean, they're gonna do all these type of things. What are some of the things that parents need to be aware of, and not just parents, but teachers and other folks as well?
Yeah, I think it's amazing some of these myths that have come down through the time, and there's usually something to it. And some of them right now we don't have to worry about this because it's still hot outside. But they'd always tell you don't go outside when it's cold without a jacket, or you might catch a cold. Well, the truth is the only way you can catch that cold is if there's a viral infection and people are wiping their hands on it, and then they're touching their eyes or their mouth or sneezing on other people. So some of the things we can do is really teach our kids how to have good hygiene. Work with them on making sure and instilling in them the practice of washing their hands before they eat. That's probably where 90% of the things happen. And then if they sneeze into their arm, not into their hands, because typically if you sneeze into your hands, you're going to be touching things and they'll pass those germs that way. And then those simple things like, hey, if it's your water bottle, don't let anybody else drink out of that water bottle. If it's your food, let other people have their food, and you guys don't combine those things. So those are some easy ways to help prevent, but then really work on the hydration piece. If somebody is super hydrated, then what they've done is they've built up uh, we have the mucus in our bodies that we usually don't like. But really, what God designed that mucus to do is to catch those viral infections and the bacteria that's coming in before it gets into our system. And one of the best ways to build that up is have a well hydrated body. And by good hydration, that means avoid alcohol, avoid caffeine, avoid sports drinks that have lots of sugar in it, because those typically don't help us much. But really go after things that water is your best, and then sports drinks that don't have sugar with it are great add-ons to have with that.
So just like I said, school just started back in Alabama and probably all over the country. What are some of the things that we need to be aware I'm talking about the school systems as well, because I think a lot of times and a lot of things got out of whack due to
Mm.
COVID. And the things that we used to practice prior to that, we haven't got back to those good habits. What are some of the suggestions that the schools need to do, along with, just like we said, the parents and the communities and like boys and girls clubs and all of
That's
those
right.
type of things?
I think some of that is getting fear out of the way. Look, there are viruses, there are bacteria, there are all kinds of things around us all the time. But if you take the proper precautions and you wash your hands, you don't touch your face, you don't touch your eyes after you've touched other things, then you can minimize those to a great deal. But one of the other things you have to do is really think about how can I minimize the spread of disease in my family. And one of the biggest ways, and I think everybody's been guilty of it, if you've had a child who hadn't felt that great, you still sent them to school sometimes. Well, what you need to do is not send them to school. You need to keep them home, treat them, make sure they're right, because that's one of the biggest ways that these things start to turn into an epidemic, because we don't take the proper precautions when we are feeling bad.
Wow. You see what Soji saying, wow, this show couldn't have come at a better time. Time to arm myself with knowledge against those sneaky cold germs. And you're right, Soji. Yeah, we have to have a better understanding of how we can prevent some of those germs, or at least try to prevent most of them. What are
That's
your
right.
thoughts on that?
Oh, totally agree. And I think in addition to that, it's really understanding how you treat it, because what typically happens is we go to the doctor or we go to an urgent care, and sometimes they want to give you an antibiotic just because they want you to feel better and feel better about what you're doing. But if it's a viral infection like a cold or the flu or even coronavirus, antibiotics aren't going to help. They only help with bacterial infections. So don't ever let a health practitioner give you something that you don't really need, because eventually you might need it and it's not going to be as effective because your body's starting to build up a resistance to the antibiotic that's there, and the viral infections build up a resistance to it. So make sure you're treating it correctly as well.
Got to do that. You know what, Troy? We got to take our first station break, but I tell you, wherever you're watching this at, whether you're watching the E360 television, Transverse TV, YouTube, or over 35 other live streaming networks, if you want to be part of the conversation, all you have to do is just go to whichever platform you're watching this on, ask this great man any question that you might have. I promise you, we'll get you an answer. It's your life, and I will be back shortly after the break.
Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, or hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? In everything that you do.
Dr. James JC Cooley from the United States of America, and I am here to just say, first of all, I'm so happy and honored to be on it, to be in the Coffee Book 2023, Unified Brain Z and the other organizations. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this collection. Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and Troy is educating us at the perfect time because, again, school just opened up in many places this week, and it's going to be opening up in other places next week. So I see that we got a lot of viewers, and these are some absolutely wonderful tips. And so I think we need to take them in. We need to pay attention, and we need to implement these things. And so that your son or daughter or whoever won't be coming home sick and spreading germs and et cetera. So I want to pick it back up with that, Troy. You mentioned something a few minutes ago about hydration, making sure you have enough hydration, water, and that. Can you explain to our audience how that could help prevent a common cold or, most of the negative germ symptoms that we're going to have if we are hydrated?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing with hydration is it's really your first line of defense. And the reason it's your first line of defense is because it helps your mucous membranes, that lining that's inside our nose, going down our throats, everything. It really helps that be coated really well with mucus, not to the point that you can't breathe or you can't, you're so stuffy anymore. But it's really before that happens that we want to be well hydrated, because it's going to catch that bacteria. It's going to catch any toxins that are coming into your body, and it's going to catch the viral infection or the viral load that's coming in. And when you do that, it then starts to push it out of your body and you can get rid of it. But if you're not well hydrated and that area is all dried up, then you start having some issues because it just slips through your body, isn't caught, and you have some real issues with viral infections and bacterial infections at that point.
I know when I'm have a cold or something like that, I have major problems getting sleep. What is some of the benefits of getting sleep? I mean, to help fend off or to help stop some of the effects of common colds and other things that might be occurring?
Absolutely. Sleep is essential to really building a strong immune system. So you've got to have sleep, you've got to have diet. And if you don't have those two things, your body is working overtime to try to shut down. I think we're designed so well that we've got to have that sleep to really recharge our batteries, for lack of a better way of describing it, and just kind of let our body shut down for the evening, that then it can start fighting off those viral infections and bacterial infections. If we're up all the time and we're engaged with people, or we're running or we're walking, then our body is taking energy from that particular spot, and it's no longer able to put energy towards our immune health, which we have to have extra energy going through our immune health when we get involved with bacteria and infections, especially this time of year, because kids are bringing something home new every single night, if you've got kids who are in elementary school, especially.
So most, parents, sometimes when a kid get a common cold, they don't rush them to the hospital, nothing like that. But what are some of the over-the-counter medicine that they might want to have in mind that that's going to help prevent and also help when kids do get these colds and stuff? Just going to bring some at ease to it.
I think starting from a prevention standpoint, you really want to be taking a right amount of supplements, typically your vitamin C. I think during COVID, we learned a lot about supplementation and how it can help. So vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, and then a new, really kind of a newer supplement to the public, which was quercetin. It's been out there a long time, but it's a bioflavonoid that's basically from apples. So that old saying that an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, there's some truth to it because quercetin is a big portion of that. So we know that quercetin and zinc really work to break down viral infections and bacterial infections and can help stand against that. And then if you take zinc, you always want to take some copper with it because it can reduce those levels. So if you're taking the right supplementation and you've got the right diet, meaning you're eating healthy, you're not eating a lot of fried foods, a lot of fatty foods, but you've got a well-balanced diet with fruits and vegetables. You know, your mom was always right. You need to be eating fruits and vegetables. There's a reason, because those things really help our body get to the greatest degree of immune health and energy levels that we can possibly have. So you want to do those things. And those are easy things that you can start implementing as you go along. So again, supplementation and diet are huge with anything. And you want to keep exercising as well, because there are plenty of studies out there that show exercise helps release endorphins in our bodies, which also help with our immune health. So you want to have that piece and component going so your body can be as efficient and effective as possible when it comes to fighting off any type of infection that's there.
What about, you have families that don't believe in taking medicines, and they want to take herbal plants or something like that. You have a recommendation for? I know a lot like that.
Yeah, no, and there's plenty of evidence with some of those that they are very effective. There are studies that have gone in. I think quercetin is one, zinc is one. There's a new one called luteolin that I've learned about of late that is really good as well. So there are a lot of those, like green tea and some of those things that have some studies with it, but you do have to be careful and you want to do your research, because again, just taking something because you've heard it's good is not always the best way to go about it. You want to take ownership of your health and do some research, because you may have health issues or conditions that those particular pieces might actually complicate some of your health issues. So you want to be sure to dive in, do that research, and really take ownership yourself. But yes, there are some great ones out there. And, one of the best that I think I heard always growing up was have a little bit of chicken noodle soup, right? That's going to help. Well, there are actually some studies that showed chicken noodle soup did help because it cut down some of the stuffiness that was going on. It allowed people to get the nutrients they needed. I mean, it doesn't stop the cold, but it can certainly make you feel better.
You know what? I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I love me some chicken noodle soup.
Oh, you and me both. I can do some of that for sure. And when you're not feeling good, there's something about that warm chicken noodle soup that always makes me feel a little bit better.
That chicken noodle soup, the broth of that, I mean, it's just fantastic. Now, you and I from Alabama, and we know, I mean, at least I do. It was a lot of things that were growing around us when we were, when I was coming up at 5 or 6, 7, 8 years old, where my grandma and my aunt would go out and get some catnip tea. I don't know if you still remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Or they would take some peppermint and a little rum or something like that. And the little special remedies that they came up with. And for some reason, it seemed like it worked.
And there are studies like with catnip and peppermint and some of those things that they will certainly help open up your nasal passages. They'll help fight off some of that because there are antibacterial and antiviral properties in some of those ingredients. So it works. Now, the one that doesn't work as well that was often used was putting in some alcohol in there. We know that alcohol makes you feel better just because it numbs your whole body, but it's not really going to help do anything other than just kind of numb your system. So that's one thing that you have to be careful of, and maybe look for another alternative other than alcohol when you're doing it.
I think you're absolutely right. So a lot of people sit back and they think that if I don't do it, this cold is going to go away.
Hmm.
But depending on your body, I mean, your immune system, sometimes it just doesn't work that way.
You're absolutely right. And I think if there's anything we learned from COVID, it's, hey, if you start feeling bad, you need to start treating it and taking it serious, because your body can take a quick or a turn really quickly. So you want to be sure that you're treating those things. And if you've got a viral infection, treat the symptoms, make sure that you're not going down a really bad path with your body. So start to treat it. And some of the ways that you can do it, depending on your symptoms, is if you've got that stuffy head, then some of the two best over-the-counter medicines that you could take is either phenylephrine or pseudoephedrine. So phenylephrine and pseudoephedrine both work to kind of narrow your arteries and blood vessels so you can start breathing well. The downside to that is if you've got high blood pressure, then both of those could elevate your blood pressure. So you have to be careful of what you take. So just going over to Walgreens or CVS or one of those stores and pulling, or your local pharmacy, and pulling off a cough cold medicine, you want to be sure of what's in it, because those can have a drastic effect on you. You know, the other thing is we get that runny nose or we can't sleep, so we look for an antihistamine. And some of the more common ones are like pyrilamine, brompheniramine, Benadryl, which is diphenhydramine. But that diphenhydramine can actually cause cognitive impairment the next day and some brain fog. So you've got to be careful which ones you take. And if you take it and you drive with some of them, there are certain states that if you're driving, they could pull you over and it'd be considered driving under the influence or driving while impaired. So you have to be careful of those and really take that medicine over. I recommend taking it when you're not going to be out and about, to see how you respond and your body responds to it, so you don't have a scenario like that.
Wow. You know, one other thing before we take the break is gargling with salt water. Gargling with salt water. Does that provide any relief for a common cold or other cold and flu symptoms?
That is a great question, and one we get all the time. And the answer is yes. Believe it or not, it's one of those things that you do see some benefit from, but typically it's a very temporary benefit. If you have a sore throat, then you will definitely see some benefit, because what it does is it pulls out some of the inflammation in your throat and gets rid of it. Now, it is not going to stop a viral infection. It's not going to make it keep it from getting worse. But there was a study in 2005 where they followed people who gargled 3 times a day with salt water. They had 40% less chance of getting sick, and then they did recover faster, but it was only by like a day or two. So, and it helped with symptom relief. But overall, it is both a yes and a no with the gargling with water, with salt water, that is.
Wow. You know, we're going to take a station break, but when I get back, I want to talk a little bit about Centurion Labs, some of the things that your organization is doing, and just enlighten and inform our listeners and viewers exactly how you guys are just marching on and making and keeping people healthy. So
Absolutely.
we're going to take a station break, and regardless of which platform you're watching, so if you want to be part of the conversation, all you have to do is just go to the platform, ask any question that you might have. I promise you, we'll get you an answer. It's your life. We'll see you shortly after the break.
I never wanna leave. Yeah, I'm right where I wanna be. We got something you and me, and I can't get rid of this feeling. Just like a magnet, we're just like a magnet. The things we have can't be taken for granted. Now I know that it has always been you. I can't help it, I'm so drawn to you. Just like a magnet, we're just
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and just sitting here getting educated, and hopefully that you are as well. We're talking about common colds, back to school, how we could help prevent by educating our kids, communities to prevent from catching a lot of these germs. And it's going to take all of us working together in order to do that, especially educating and teaching our kids. So Troy is bringing it like he always does, always educate us and continue to implement knowledge so we get a better understanding. And I see we got a lot of folks all over the country, all over the world that's tuning in and commenting on this. And I really appreciate you all taking the time to watch the show. Yes, your comments are very, very valuable. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. You know, I want to pick it back up with that, Troy. I want to talk about your company and some of the things that you all are doing. And I know it's more than just cold products. You guys do a lot of different type of products. Can you tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about it?
Yeah, so we're Centurion Labs. We started out as a small pharmaceutical company, but then we recognized some of the data and studies out there showed that there were some supplements that worked as well or even better than some of the pharmaceuticals that were out there, and kind of took us down that path, even though originally it wasn't necessarily where we were going. I think we just wanted to go where the data led and truly bring things that help people. And where that started with was some cough medicines called Ninja Cough that has it's called clofidinol. It's the strongest non-narcotic cough suppressant on the market. It has an antihistamine in it. And then we have one that has an antihistamine and decongestant, like we talked about as well. But from that, we went down the path of prenatal prescription vitamins and then prenatal vitamins that were not prescription, because we saw a lot of benefit for people who had different disease states. So if you have issues with folic acid, and all of us do because it's not natural, then you would take a product like ours called Bump, which has methylfolate and folinic acid. So, and really we saw a huge need because of the fear that was around COVID to develop something that had some science behind it that would help people feel more comfortable to get back out and get engaged in society. And that's what we did with our Defender Immunity Boost product and our Defender PM product, that really were designed for one during the day with the immunity boost and one at night, because we found studies that showed melatonin, that thing that we have always heard about helps with your sleep, really was very beneficial in not just your sleep, but your immune health, and trying to walk people through that. So again, it's always about what does the literature say? And is there enough literature that we can feel comfortable to go, hey, there is something to this. And when we see that, we try to develop a product that wraps around those things.
With a lot of the products that you all are developing and researching, do you guys have a lot of products for our youth and kids and young adults that's going to help them?
We do. And most of our products, we really try to design that we say the cradle to grave mentality. So from 2 to 92 are going to help them some way or shape. So that's what we try to do, is develop a product that will do that. And with our cough suppressant, it is truly from age 2 up to 92. You'll get some benefit from it. And then with our immune health products, it's the same way, because we know that, hey, we're all getting exposed to this. So why not give our bodies the best start and best possible outcome we can give it by giving it the supplements that they need.
So you talked briefly about antibiotics. Why should antibiotics be avoided during a viral cold or common cold?
Well, antibiotics are only for bacterial infections. So if you've got a viral infection like a cold or the flu or coronavirus, an antibiotic is going to do no good. As a matter of fact, it's going to cause more harm than good, because it allows the viral infection. Let's say that you have just a little bit of a viral infection in your body and your body's working to expel it. Well, that virus is now learning how to overcome that antibiotic. And we've had a lot of antibiotics that have become less and less powerful because it was kind of a knee-jerk reaction for years within the medical community to say, here, have an antibiotic and feel better. But really all we were doing is making ourselves feel better in our minds because it was doing no good against a viral infection. And it just became almost habit for a lot of doctors, because if a mom or a dad takes off work and they take their kid into a pediatrician and the pediatrician says, you don't need anything, just go home and rest. A lot of times mom and dad aren't real happy with that. So we instead took that knee-jerk reaction to say, here's an antibiotic and that's all you need, but really treat the symptoms and they'll start feeling better, and it gives you a lot more comfort and you're not causing any issues with the antibiotics if you do that.
Wow. So a lot of us, as lately, we are taking this called apple cider vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
I know I take it. I take the brand apple cider vinegar and sometimes the tablets. Are there really benefits in that? If so, can you explain and educate our listeners?
Yeah. So apple cider vinegar and a lot of those, I guess, supplements like that do have some value to them because they do have some antiviral and antibacterial properties that you're getting some of that relief from. Now, what you have to be careful of or think about is what's the level that you saw those things happen in particular studies. And that's something that you have to research. It's not something that I know specifically, but I do know that there are differing levels that you come into contact with something like apple cider vinegar. Depending on what you're wanting to treat, you may have to take more or you may have to take less. So you just want to be sure that you've been diving into some of that research to go, okay, where is the biggest benefit for me personally with what I'm trying to treat? But there is no doubt that apple cider vinegar has a place in keeping us healthy, because just like fruits and vegetables and all these other supplements, there is always some truth to what we've been taking all these years. I mean, our grandparents and our great grandparents took a lot of these things and there was a lot of benefit to it. Now, there were some that didn't, but for the most part, the ones that have survived the test of time, there's a reason, because they actually worked.
They also said that by taking apple cider vinegar, a lot of people said that will help you lose weight or help control your system.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
On the weight piece, I think I haven't jumped into the data on that. What I have read about a little bit more is on the GI tract and kind of your digestive system. And there has definitely been some research that has supported the fact that it's going to help with your digestive system. And I think in turn, because it helps with that digestive piece, it can help with the weight. But I haven't seen specific research on anything about weight itself. So more on the digestive health type of thing.
You mentioned a few minutes ago, you kind of touched on it, driving when you're experiencing a severe cold. Can you go back to that a little bit more? Because you had mentioned certain type of medicine that people probably need to be aware of.
Yes.
Just dive back into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of those things that most of us don't really give much thought to, because we think if it's over the counter and it's sitting there available to us, then it must be safe or it must be okay for us to drive with. But you really need to understand that if you take some of those medications and it causes you to be drowsy, then you're actually on the hook from the state government, depending on what state it is, to be considered driving while impaired or a DUI. So, and what we know is there are some antihistamines that are in those over-the-counter medications that can cause a lot of drowsiness in certain individuals. And there are certain individuals that it affects a lot more. That's why I always recommend, before you get behind the wheel, take your cough medicine, your cold medicine, and make sure you know how it's interacting with your body before you ever get behind a wheel and start driving, because there's no sense in being sick and then feeling really sick if you get pulled over and get charged with a DUI or a DWI.
Certainly don't want to do that. We got about a minute and a half before the break. You mentioned zinc a little bit, but can zinc supplements help prevent or treat the common cold?
What we know is that zinc has a huge antiviral effect. So what zinc does is when it gets inside your cells and you've got enough zinc, is it actually goes and basically destroys any viral cell that's there before it can start replicating and getting deeper into your body and causing a lot of those infections. So if you have and have been exposed to a viral infection, if you've got the right levels of zinc, it's going to help squash that right away. If you are sick, then zinc can actually come in and help begin to reduce that viral load to get you feeling better quicker. One thing you do need to be careful of with zinc, though, is that it can cause a lot of GI upset with people if you take too much of it. So I always recommend taking zinc with meals, because that way you're not going to have to be feeling nauseated or just feeling horrible on top of fighting off an infection, because that's never good. But yes, zinc is an incredible antiviral piece, and there are a whole bunch of studies that support that. And then if you have it with quercetin, which is that thing that's in the apple, well, quercetin and zinc work together real well. So quercetin is like the bus, zinc is like the passenger, and quercetin gets the zinc inside the cells, and it helps kind of destroy those viral infections.
I kind of like that analogy. The zinc in the apple. We got to take a station break. Well, we're going to come back, and this is such an interesting topic. And wow, it's like I said, Troy's bringing it. If you want to be part of it, you got any questions for him, you still got time. It's your life. We'll see you shortly after the break. Hello. Hey, I'm James Cooley. I am the founder and CEO of the JC Cooley Foundation, Options, Opportunities, / the Choice Program. Our primary mission is to help build a foundation of our youth and young adults and communities. And we encourage everyone to dream big, think big, and be big at everything you do. And the way that you do that is, first of all, you got to believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know that you are here for a purpose. You also have to be able to step out your comfort zone and do things that you probably didn't think that you can do. Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and wow, this is extremely interesting. It's fun, and it's exciting to get educated more on the common cold and some of the things that we need to be doing to help prevent that, and also taking care of our kids, help keep them from being sick and infecting other kids. So Troy is like always. We got to have him back on again. I mean, we can't let him get away too far, especially when he educating all of us the way that he's doing right now. So, Troy, why is it's important in to live a healthy lifestyle that might be able to help prevent a lot of things from happening to us, and also preventing a lot of colds and viruses and diseases that we could encounter if we don't?
That's a great question. And I think, again, thinking back to COVID, we don't know what we don't know. In other words, we don't know when we're going to be introduced to some viral infection, whether it's COVID, colds, flus, whatever. But if your body is not ready to take that on, then it can have a detrimental effect. We know from the stats with COVID that 95% of the people who died from COVID with at least 4 comorbidities. That means these were not very healthy people at all. So how can we then get our bodies in shape to take on any type of viral infection or load that comes in? So one of the things that we have to do is think like a car. So if your car is low on oil and it starts to get hot as it's been running a little while, the car doesn't function well because it's taking all that heat that's supposed to be taken out by the oil and it's putting it in other parts of the car and it shuts down. Well, our bodies are the same way. If we haven't done a great job of eating correctly, if we haven't done a great job of exercising, then all those systems start to tear down within our body because we're having to take all the extra energy we have to go towards our immune health. And then if it's going towards our immune health, then we have high blood pressure, or we've got cardiovascular disease, or we have diabetes, then all those things start to crumble together just like a car does, because we're basically just a machine that has to have all the parts working as best it can in order to get us to respond the best way possible when we come to rainy conditions, if we're in the car, or our tires have to be in good order, or if we have hot days and we don't have the coolant that we need, it can overheat. Our bodies are the same way. So that's why it's so important to take it into consideration what you're doing today, because every single day you have choices that you can make to either help yourself and your body respond when it comes across these viral infections, or you have a choice to make some bad decisions and have your body respond poorly when it comes to those things. So hopefully what you do every single day is inspiring people to make good choices so their bodies can respond the best way they possibly can.
So, are there any products out there that we can do to help boost our immune system, yes, to
Abs-
help prevent us from getting sick?
Absolutely. I would encourage anybody to go to centurionlabs.com. That's our website. And when you go there, we will put up a coupon called Your Life for your viewers and listeners, and they'll get 50% off their first bottle. And they can go get Defender or Defender PM, whichever one they want, to help prevent. And then if they get sick, they can always get the Ninja cough medicine and really help prevent that cough, or to lessen that cough so they can get the rest they need so their body can start fighting off the things that they need to fight off.
Yeah, I mean, it's your life. It's your life. A coupon. We certainly gonna put that on all our platforms. And me personally, I'm gonna go there, check out what you all are doing, and get some of your products as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so, can you tell us, are there any new products that you guys are working on right now?
We are always working on some new products. Some of the things that we're working on now are for cognitive health and for helping people that have ADHD really kind of overcome some of that stuff, especially for kids, trying to find different products or ingredients that are natural, that aren't stimulants, that help kids deal with that. And then adults really help deal with the cognitive piece so they can think more clearly if they have brain fog or they're dealing with any of those things. So those are things that we're super excited about coming out with in the future. And then anything with clotting or things like that, some natural ways to overcome some clotting issues that are out there.
So for people that are trying to lock in on some of the things, what are some of the takeaways that you might have for them, and some recommendations on certain products, especially for the kids with common colds, that your company might be creating?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, nobody's going to take better care of your health for you or your family than you are. Doctors won't, government won't, nobody's going to be able to do that more than you. And we've got to help educate our kids that, hey, these germs, you don't like to be in bed sick. Well, here are some ways you can do that. Wash your hands before you eat. Make sure you're covering your mouth when you sneeze. If you're touching lots of things, make sure you're not touching your eyes and your mouth. That goes for kids and adults. Then we need to really work on staying hydrated. We need to work on eating right, and we need to work on exercise, because that gets our body in tune to where it can take on any type of infection that it possibly can, at least to the best opportunity against those infections that we possibly can. And then from a product standpoint, find those supplements that have some scientific basis to them to say, hey, these things work. I know that if I take them, it's only going to help my body fight off these things as best as we possibly can. And that's all we can do. And once we get beyond those things and we take ownership and we do our part, the rest is really in God's hands, and there's not much we can do about it. And we just have to trust that and go live our lives the best way we possibly can.
Troy, just like I mentioned to you earlier, we got to get you back on if your schedule permit. I love these types of interviews. It's educational, especially when we have seasons that's coming up. I know that sooner or later, summer is going to end, and we're going to be in the winter time, and that's a whole different beast. So really want to thank you for taking the time to come on the show, and just like I said, want to get you back on again if you got time.
I would love to.
I want to thank Dr. JC Cooley for putting together another absolutely fantastic show. Most importantly, I'd like to thank our viewers and our listeners for tuning in to the James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, or Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Always dream big, think big, and be big in everything that you do. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. It's your life. We'll see you then.